Howdy, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Sit Down. Tonight, I'm going to be hosting a debate of theism versus atheism and what has contributed to society more. I have two guests with me and then a couple more that are going to join later on. If you would like to come on during any of this, just shoot me a message or comment on the chat and I'll drop the link below. So I have two people joining me. Like I said, I have Andy Groff. A little bit about him. He attacked the Pope outside of the Vatican. He's going to be debating for atheism. I'm going to bring him on stage. Howdy, Andy.
Hello, hello.
Andy's quote unquote opponent for tonight is Carson Last Namington. That is his real name. It is biblical. He a little bit about him. He hates having conversations. It's the thing he hates the most. So I'm going to bring him on. Howdy, fellas. If you'd like to. So, Andy, you're going to be defending atheism. Carson, you're going to be defending theism. I am going to basically moderate for a little bit, and then I'm going to jump in on kind of the Christian side. If you don't mind, I guess take 30 seconds, Andy, and give kind of your opening statement about this.
Okay. Good to be here, by the way. Thanks. This is going to be fun. So I think that atheism overall would be contributing more because it's science. Like, the science doesn't have hope and belief and everything. So the science behind everything has gotten us to space. The science has created everything that we use. Therefore, it would be the lack of religion behind science that pushes forward all of the achievements humankind has advanced.
All right, Carson, you want to go ahead and take 30 seconds to give your response?
Just basically that I almost agree with you on the science being a major factor to encouraging human thriving, but I think you only get science birthed from people who are chasing the divine within a religious context. And from there, so much of science, especially in the early days, was dependent on religious people who were only doing science as part of what they were up to. Like, Newton is one of the most celebrated scientists, did an absolute truckload of writing on mysticism and theological concepts. And that took about as much of his time as the science did. And without him, you don't get to the modern era. I don't know if you want me to keep going. Or... I feel like I could maybe go off a little too long on this because...
Okay, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to open the floor for a couple of minutes while I get a couple of things situated. Andy, I guess respond to his opening statement, and we'll kind of go from there.
All right. So, yes, a lot of the earlier scientists were also religious. I just don't think that the religion behind their beliefs pushed the science. It was more they were looking for the answers, but the lack of, they had to take away their faith that something was true to find the fact from science. Like, they had to look beyond their beliefs to find the truths of science. And therefore, it took the religion out of it. And a lot of, those earlier ones got in trouble with the churches and such because it went against the doctrine and everything. So it would be more like the religion was trying to suppress the scientific side and maybe even holding it back because they were looking at it from the wrong angle.
There's there's a derail in the framing of our conversation right now, and I'm hoping I can redefine it a little bit to make it easier for us, because we both want to claim the values of science and the benefits of science.
Right.
It's going to get into a ridiculous kind of pissing match. The thing that I think I'd like to re-rail us onto is the problem that atheism has is it's not an affirmative claim. It's not a cohesive group. So it taking credit for things is a strange concept. While most scientists are atheists, there's a bunch of scientists who aren't.
Right.
Their contributions suddenly belong to atheism, even if you win the science in the conversation? I don't think so. So instead, I'd like to frame it as not like material value, but like social health. Um, I think the regular schedules that religions provide, like the church literally invented the calendar that we use. Uh, the ritualistic weekly meeting with your community is, I think, an inherently socially valuable thing that I'm not sure science can replicate. So, in what way does atheism replicate it outside of the sphere of science?
That's a hard one to argue because we don't have a version of society that doesn't have religion. So it's easy to say that religion did all of this because we don't have a compare it to. Like there is no eons long society that has gone on without religion in it
It's more
to compare it, you know.
we're
So
talking
so
before.
like
I view
like
everyone as
religion, because I can see your side that religion has contributed. It has, we have the calendar because of it. People do this and this because the church has said it that way, but there was no competition to really go against. Like there was no, so to say that it's contributed all this, but I would argue that since the decline of religion overall and the more going towards fact-based belief is has contributed more in this, even like the last 100 years towards what our current society is getting away from religion has still opened up. There's plenty of people that are empathetic, that are run atheists, that run charities. Like I'd say it's probably pretty equal. So just because religion did it doesn't mean that it made it better. It could have been better.
I think the thing I want to get at is there's like studies on how prosperous, more atheistic nations tend to have a higher suicide rate and higher instances of depression than more impoverished nations. And I think part of the reason for that is the religiosity of the impoverished nations provides the community that is somehow like we evolved to be tribal, small tribe, small group communities. And the more atheistic we seem to get, the more we seem to lose that. So I think that is a huge contribution to society that's almost a requirement before you can even get to things like science. And are there ways that atheists, not even associate to atheism, but how do atheists replicate those values like the weekly meeting of your local community?
So I'm going to chime in a little bit on an earlier point we had kind of touched on here. It was about science and atheism in science, or science. I guess science's contribution to society. I think that science and religion are not mutually exclusive. You can subscribe to a theistic ideology while still believing in science. A very, very large part of why I would think that is Georges Lemaitre, the person who founded the Big Bang Theory, the person who theorized that the universe is forever expanding. That was a monk. That was a very, very devout Catholic who was funded by Catholicism. The church paid for his research and wanted him to expand upon it further. You also have like, what is that guy's name? The guy who founded founder of chemistry.
Oh, is it the British Society that's the science club in the UK? One of those clubs is like the oldest science
Robert Boyle
group,
and
they're Catholic as well, I think.
I would consider the church has always kind of been the framework of most communities, and I feel like it's also been kind of the frameworks of society. They kind of always had a bigger pocket, a bigger bank to spend on things like science, even far before you had taxation rates at, any kind of parallel to what they are now. I think that most of the funding from then, from science progressing, in its baby steps to anywhere even close to now, had to at least in part be funded by religion overall. I think that if you find a person who believes in religion and not science, they're almost always going to be an outlier. Almost always.
I think you're gonna get into like a word game there, at least in my mind, on what you mean by a religion, because I think a lot of scientists will profess an
Okay, so
atheism, but then
if you substitute religion with Christianity, that works
Okay.
with me, or Catholicism, or any
Yeah.
direct section of any religion. If you substitute that with anything, I don't believe that you're going to find a majority of people within any certain practiced religions that would choose their religion over science as a concept. I believe that that's something normally they're going to accept and practice in tandem. There are extremists on the far. You'll have edge cases, of course. You'll have edge cases, but I don't think that we can disqualify science as being like, that's not a good.
There's a book I was listening to that just because it was in my library on Audible and is relevant to the conversation, so I thought I'd get through it. Talks about there's different ages of different like eras of what the word religious even meant. Like it used to mean just the rituals that someone participated in, like the ancient Greeks sacrifice a goat so they could go fight some guys or something. It was the practicing of the rituals that made you religious, even if you didn't really believe in the gods. And then it became a worldview where like a literal history of the world. This is how the world functions. God is the prime mover. And that's where science is sort of birthed. And out of that, you eventually get to Kant is the guy who gets credit for this, is the separation where it becomes religion means the ethical system that you live within. And it isn't necessarily making claims about time, space, reality. It's making metaphysical claims.
Metaphysics is a super challenging
metaphysical
idea
and like ethical.
Yeah.
Metaphysical is a super challenging idea to even like approach, because it's one of those things you almost have to. I'm sure that we all know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is.
Yeah.
You have to be at that first. You have to be hitting that first hill to really accept metaphysics. People with a surface level understanding of metaphysics, they're behind it and they understand it. The people that are super deep in metaphysics will start talking about how metaphysics isn't actually provable as an existent thing. And I guess that's kind of like how most philosophical people are, though. People that philosophize too deeply.
You're trying to hypothesize about stuff you couldn't make an experiment about.
Yep.
Yeah. So back to the topic a little bit. So I was thinking it's known that religion has contributed because that, like I said, that's basically all there has been. Like that's, so obviously it's had to be one of the main contributing factors that's led towards science or society in general. And the argument I'm making is that at some point it has gotten away from that, and we've made more advancements getting away, like untying from religion and non-religion. I'm not going to use atheism because it's like, that's a personal thing. Like you can't really, like you said, being religious, you can be part of a group. Being an atheist, you're kind of just an atheist. So, but non-religion, it's advanced more since then. And being that you can find as many instances that where religion has held back society, like the wars that burned the Library of Alexandria and stuff. So things that set back history in our society kind of go outweigh and make it even as like, okay, they contributed this, but they also did this that set us back another 2,000 years. We could be living on the moon now, like who knows? So it's more of a, without religion, I think we would be farther. Therefore, I think the atheism part of it has made it possible for to get where we are today by untying from the church and taking away all the power that they had to make the choices of like, oh, we don't want people to see this, we'll just kill them. So that's,
I used to be far more on the same page as what you're arguing right now. And I just think that if we're going to put the deaths of the Inquisition at the feet of religion because that's where they belong,
yeah.
I don't know why we can't also put the deaths of communism at the feet of atheism, and similarly just be like, look, this is what happens when it gets out of hand. It's just people doing people shit, and sometimes people shit is terrible.
Yeah. And that would be the final argument of it is it's not necessarily religion or atheism that's doing it, it's people. Like, so and depending on what they claim would depend on, so it's
going back to what you said, like we've always had religion and we're only now entering an era where like the irreligious are far more common than they've ever been.
Like 2 out of 3 in one room. So
yeah, sort of unfortunately, but oh well.
Yeah.
As that's happened, we're seeing the population bomb that's coming, where we're not reproducing like we have. I know the loneliness crisis is more about social media than atheism, but some of the going back, like we need to find secular alternatives to that weekly communal gathering. Or I don't think atheism as a societal norm will survive very many generations. We're just going to become religious again because something about that community aspect allows communities to survive more than one generation. And I'm not.
I definitely foresee religions around science are already popping up. So, like humans have an inherent desire to believe in stuff because we just don't know. So we'll believe whatever sounds the most logical, obviously. And what sounds the most logical is what the people you trust are telling you. So, but yeah, definitely that humans definitely are more inclined to believe in a religion of some sort. And the vast majority, like the quantity of religions that have and are show that, like, there's only one atheism.
maybe to try to get it back on the topic a little firmer again. Like I can give you things like the calendar and a bunch of early scientists who are religious. What even would be a contribution that quote unquote atheism made if we were to say that it's contributed something more specific and tangible than just the scientific development of the last 100 years, which includes a lot of religious people?
Everything like Stephen Hawking has discovered, he was an atheist. So like everything that he's discovered about black holes and Hawking radiation and all that would be on the table for things that are equivalent to what the calendar is, like knowing that and how much it's going to help us in the future will, remain to be seen. So like, yes, the calendar's helped us organize as a society, but this may help us organize as a galactic empire, so at this point in our history, it's a really hard point to be, like what has atheism? I don't know. We've only had like 100 years or so.
Yeah.
So I don't think, so kind of turning back to community, and a sense of community, technology versus, I guess, theism or atheism, which would have contributed most to isolationism. I think that if you were involved in any sort of church, you were going to be more heavily involved in your community. I think it's almost inarguable. If you're an active member of your church, you're going to talk to more people than you would if you, let's say,
Play games all weekend.
yeah, like I think that there's a spike in atheism, just like there's a spike in social
Women.
media, because basically people want to be cool. I think people want to be cool, and if they are hit with any how do I explain this? Okay, so I've been online for, I guess, most of my adult life and most of my teenage years. I cannot tell you how many people are like, I was abused by a member of the church, and then if you ask them about it, it means that they had to go to church 4 times when they were 10. If you don't think that's a very real thing, I promise you, ask someone. Because it's like, I had to wake up at 7 one Sunday. I can never go back to the church. Look how terribly they treated me. And it's not like, there is some real terrible things that Christians have done. Fine. Cool.
I just think
But
you'll find that's true in every group, right? Like,
Yeah. Pinning stuff like that down to any particular group, like you get enough people together in any group that have access to children, it's gonna happen. Unfortunately, like it's.
I think it's most common, like that kind of abuse is the most common with teachers, out of anyone, which is
I
insane.
coach high school football, and I've done that for years. And pretty much every year, I'm shocked at how little screening goes into the people that are coaching kids. And yeah, they're like 15, 16, 17, so they can mostly like stand up for themselves. Or if I'm a crappy coach, they can just leave and it's not a big deal. But like, there's so many kids I've coached where I never met their parent. It's wild to me. Like, they don't come to the game, don't come to the practices. If they don't come to any of our events, I've never seen this person. And they're just giving me unfettered access to their kid for 10 hours a week.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, you guys got to screen more, because I'm in the group and I'm uncomfortable with it.
So do you believe that atheism peaking as it has, Andy, do you think it's been a net positive to society?
I think it has. I think that it's shown people that there's other things to believe in, that, like, because if you start focusing on the fact that the science side of it, like, we live on a speck of dust, we're not some special person, eventually, as I see, because I'm in a lot of groups that are atheists and stuff, and do help, like, there's a lot of groups that do help the community that are atheist based and stuff. So I think it is a growing trend. I think the further, and as you see, like, if you look up the statistics on how much religion has declined, like people that actually claim any religion, it's dropped a lot in even just the last 20 years. So I think as society moves forward and gets less and less religion, it just becomes one of those obscure things that some people do. Humanity as a whole will realize that we're not special, so we need to work together more. At least that's my optimistic outlook on it. Like, but
I would just say that, like, just because people are atheists doesn't mean they don't believe in silly stuff like crystals. I got an atheist, buddy. Make sure he plugs his salt rock in next to his computer all the time, and I'm always like, okay, dude, you paid $15 for it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Or,
nice nightlight.
And like, yeah, I'm not sure that atheism is going to leave such a positive, lasting legacy, in large part just because of the population bomb problem. We need more Catholics pumping out more kids.
Yeah, I think it won't be so much that religion won't be replaced. Like, a religion, the belief in an omnipotent God that's just not there is on its way out. I think it'll be replaced with more science-based religions, like most likely AI. There will be things. Like, I saw one article where they were literally trying to start like an AI cult thing to help pass information and train it through this. Like it was, I don't even remember, it was a while ago, but yeah, they were trying to create a cult with AI so that it could remember things, and like, yeah. And that's how it starts.
I think you only need like 80 followers for a religion to get tax exempt status.
Yeah.
So like maybe look into that with the AI. Like how many followers you got now, Andrew? You got more than 80?
Yes.
To qualify as a religion, maybe. Get them all just put on their taxes. I am a member of Andrew's Thursday church.
Yeah. Which actually brings up another point that I believe is holding back society is the fact that churches aren't taxed as businesses. Like I know we're supposed to have separation and all that, but if they were contributing their share, society I think would be better. Like I get
there's supposed to be a clause in there about the whole purpose of them not getting taxed is because they provide these communal social services to the local community. Like this, like housing the homeless is the common go-to.
Yeah.
But I do agree that I think a bunch of churches should probably get audited just to be like, what exactly are you providing the community? Because
yeah, I can tell you on a personal level that I've been in situations where I've called churches asking for help, like to cover rent or an electric bill or something in the winter, and they're always out of money. Like, oh, sorry, we just ran out. So and it's always the same story in my personal experience. So, but I get that they do help some people.
Like,
So
I don't trust Joel Osteen's church is doing its part.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Maybe he's doing a bunch of stuff. I have no idea, but I imagine it's just going into his pocket.
Yeah, the people that build his planes are doing well.
Okay, so let's see. On average, so I do think that churches do more for their community than almost any other
secular group.
I think you'd be very, very hard pressed to find like any non-theistic group contributing at the same amount as churches do. Okay, so I'm Catholic. I'm in something called the Knights of Columbus. Do either of you know what that is?
No.
Vaguely.
Okay. You've heard of coat drives before?
Yeah.
Okay. Soup kitchens.
Yeah.
No.
Can drives.
Yeah.
You've heard of all these things. These were all founded by the Knights of Columbus. So I'm trying to like figure out like how I can word this to search it and pull it up. Like how much money do
I can tell you that the school district here and the colleges they have rivalries and stuff like that, and they do food drives and stuff like that during big games and they raise a lot of food, that goes to the homeless shelters and stuff like that. So, and a lot of that's government funded, so it's the schools putting it on to contribute. So
it would be nice and interesting if we could somehow live in a society where like that's a scorecard that we're all consciously aware of every year. Oh, are the churches outdoing the schools, or
that the competition and doing good?
People off the street? Like, I want to see that tally.
Right.
So out of everyone in the United States who is facing something called a food insecurity, which means you don't know basically what you're going to be able to have for dinner, what you're going to be able to eat for the next week. Out of all of those, 48% receive help from the church to reach them to food security via food banks, food drives, that sort of thing. That's an insanely high number.
What was the number, sorry?
48%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that leaves 52% that either aren't getting help or being helped by non-secular.
Right, but then you have to think of entitlement programs like food stamps.
Yeah. Food stamps helps a lot.
I'm saying if I mean, how many? What's the number of people that are on food stamps? Like the spending on food stamps is food stamps U.S. per year.
That's a cross statistic you're going to get though, because a lot of people that are on food stamps are also going to food banks and
Yeah.
food drives, and
I'm just trying to like come up with some way that we can quantify.
yeah.
So you believe that as people become more atheist come into existence, rather, that
Right.
it's a net positive to society because you think that it's going to build a sense of community? Is that what you were saying?
Right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's my ultimate thing is, since history's not over yet, yes, I up to this point, religion has done almost all of it, like minus the last 100 years or so. But how good has it been for society? Is kind of how I feel about it. Has it been overall the best option we could have done? If we had no religious beliefs and we were more inclined towards just finding the facts from the very beginning, how far would we be now? So, is it okay to control a population and teach them how to live the way they want and give them a sense of a good society because they just don't know what they have or could have had? So I think the benefits of atheism and getting away from religion are yet to be fully seen. Whether that then leads back to new religions and stuff, I don't know, because humans are crazy. But
Do you remember? This is what is that word? This is anecdotal. Do you remember on YouTube when all those atheists got super popular?
Yeah.
Do you all remember that wave?
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
YouTube at the start of that had a reply function where you could link your reply video to the video you're replying to. And that was the greatest conversational social media function that's maybe ever existed. And I hate that it doesn't. Like, that just encouraged such a back and forth between people that I don't feel like exists anymore.
How? Okay, so my opinion of who. Oh, here comes Don. Don's he's drinking holy water currently.
Hey everybody!
About to smoke some devil's lettuce.
So
sorry, I'm losing my light fast. Is it better without the light? Like just be in the dark? I have to be outside. My kids are loud as shit.
I can see just your glasses right now.
It depends which side you're on.
I'm the guy in the dark. No, my kids are so fucking loud in the house. I'd never be able to hear you guys.
I think it works with the light.
Okay,
it works with the light.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a
at least see me a little.
As a good practicing religious person, I feel like it's always been my job to meet people where they are as far as religious experience. I feel like I've always needed to. If you have questions, I can answer them. I'm not going to shoehorn this into every conversation. I will meet you where you're at if it's something that you're considering. That's just my own personal. That's the way that I practice my faith. Okay. The atheist wave that hit YouTube made people so gross and cringe, and they'd be like, someone would make a post and be like, oh, this is a blessed day. I'm blessed to have woken up today. And then they would be like, yeah, you believe in Sky Daddy, huh? Do you, Sky Daddy? And they just got really weird. They got really weird. And
I was probably one of those people for a few years.
I was gonna say I probably was there. My bad.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it now. I'll tell you that.
But people still do it.
Oh yeah,
people still do it.
I'm not gonna lie. I still throw Sky Daddy into the comments once in a while.
But like, are you doing it on a post where somebody's just like being thankful to God?
No. Yeah, no. I've done doing that. I used to rag people though.
I just don't see. I don't know what else to call them, like Fedora atheists from like Reddit. I don't see that being a good community. I don't see those people getting along. I feel like that would be just a lot of. Have you all ever seen this picture?
Well, those are the kinds of people who aren't even supportive of the members of their own community.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I feel like there's too much infighting within the community. Like it's like an argument about who is more atheist.
They
Yeah.
so like one of the things that changed me from being anti-theist to like maybe religion's got something I wasn't paying attention to is how many of those people just act like the most puritanical, crazy religious person. They just think they're self-righteously better than everybody because they don't believe in God, which to me is like not that big of a defining point of a personality.
Right. I
So
think
can
we
you-
don't have enough
can you-
evidence anyway to be definitive. That's
Can you all see
Oh
this
yeah, the
picture?
actually guy.
Actually,
now I can see it. Yeah.
This is what I feel like atheist communities are like. They're just there and they're going, well, actually, that's right. I just feel like there's no, and I'm not involved in that community, so maybe I'm speaking for something that I'm not a part of unfairly. Maybe I'm not speaking this in good faith. Maybe. I just feel like every atheist I've ever interacted with has like anxiety and like BPD, and they're about to go fist fight their baby mama. Like it's always something with these guys. As to where religious people are like, I'm gonna make a banana bread and go give it to a homeless person. Not all of them, but a majority of them are just like, I'm gonna go play with my son, and the internet's gay, and they're just gonna go outside. I don't know. That's
Well,
My
I always get the
experience.
term wrong, but physiognomy is that the term?
physiognomy.
Physiognomy, yeah. Like the older I get, the more I understand why that became a thing. Because certain people, like, there's so often on the internet, I'll be arguing with somebody in a comment section, and it's be like, this guy is the wildest, most poorly informed take. There's just a stereotype of a person, and I go click on their profile and go, "Yup."
Yeah.
And I know there's no science to it, but damn, does it check out more often than I'd like.
Can I address the comment that this guy made? I don't. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So
I-
every time, like, I'm sorry. Every time someone leaves a comment, I just pull it on. It's whatever the last one is. I just pull it on every time.
yeah, no, that's cool. I just wanted to address something that he'd said in it. It's about the isolation that atheism promotes, and I don't think that's necessarily true because since I've given up religion and is seeking religion and just realized that I'm just a molecule on a speck of dust and I don't mean anything, I actually have come to appreciate the people and the world around me far more. Like, because it is special. Like, even if it's not created for us, it's the rarity of it. Obviously, is pretty spectacular, and I think you're going to find division through any groups, whether that's in religion or not. That's why there's so many different religions, and they kill each other all the time over it. Like, you don't see atheists out there stabbing each other and blowing up cities because their non-God is better. So
That's the thing that I think Andrew was just hitting at, that I think me and you don't qualify as for a reason. And it's if I ask you about yourself, you tell me a list of things that are affirmative positions that you hold. They're things that you want to go out and do in the world. Whereas the atheist that Andrew's describing, that guy is going to put atheism near the top of the list of things that describe himself.
right.
And that, to me, that's just like an incidental fact about me. It's not part of my core identity.
Yeah.
And because my core identity has communities that I can go join, like I said, I coach football, so community athletics is my community. That atheist that has high anxiety, that guy doesn't have a community. His community is strangers on the internet, and
Yeah.
at best.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go through a couple By the way, Don, Don, I don't know because you have a lot of mutuals with me. Were you this guy? Were you Brandon Tarrant's friend? Brenton Tarrant's friend?
Britain trans?
Yeah. Brenton.
Oh, Brenton.
Brenton Tarrant. Were you his friend on Facebook?
It sounds very familiar.
So he was my friend on Facebook, and who this guy is he was a super big atheist. Then he got into like slash pole. This is the guy who did the Christchurch thing. If you don't know what the Christchurch thing was,
Oh, shit, yeah.
Google it. He was my Facebook friend when this happened. I watched this stream when it happened.
I remember watching the stream. I don't remember. Someone sent it to me, but
So I remember he was like gonna go for a drive. That was the name of the stream. And then it got rough. It got rough very quickly. So you were saying that
somehow
atheists,
used 17 minutes.
I just want to bring you back to something, Andy. You were talking about how atheists don't do anything. And I know that this is an edge case, and I know that it's an extreme example. Christchurch, Columbine, both of those were they were kind of done to spite religion.
Yeah.
And I know that these are edge cases, and you also have extremists in religion in general. But I think that you have extremists on both sides of this. People who want the eradication. Normally, it's infighting on one side if you're looking at religiosity, and then if you're looking at atheism, it's going to be, I don't want religious people to exist, or I want a holy war.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Good. Yeah. But it would be argued that atheists killing religious people is still far less than religious people killing religious people in the span of history.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's done a lot
agree.
to help keep the human population down. So,
like in the span of the 100 years where atheism has been relevant, I feel like if we're throwing the bodies of people at the feet of religion, it's easy to do the same with all the religions that different communist states eradicated.
yeah.
I think we also got to look at the fact that a lot of wars aren't just religious. A lot of wars were started by atheists that just wanted to nab a bunch of resources.
Or even just religious people who are doing it for resource reasons.
Well, it could be that too, but like my point. Yeah. My point was better phrased that way. Yeah, not for religious reasons.
Right. Yeah, resources has always been one of the main contentions.
I think that mostly it's fought over resources, and then secondly, it would be probably religion.
Like right now, the war that's going on where they're bombing Palestine and all that stuff over there, that's 100% religion. They just want that land. Like, these people don't belong here. It's ours.
I don't know if that's over.
I mean, oversimplifying that, but
I don't think that's.
That one's such an interesting edge case.
It's a continual retaliatory.
I saw a meme going around the other day you guys might like that shows the Israel and Palestine flags on a left-right spectrum.
The horseshoe theory.
Yeah. And it also
and it's the same with Ukraine and
Russia. Yeah, the two are over each other. And I'm like, man, this checks out way too well.
Yeah.
It's super weird to see like those super far lefties who have spent since Trump got elected in like 2016, they've spent their entire online like time going Nazi, 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 Nazi.
And then
now they're like Israel blowing off the map. And I'm like, you get how I don't know.
Pick and choose.
Yeah, don't say words I don't like. Blow Israel off the map.
Yeah,
it's kind of fascist, and I don't know. Maybe this. I don't know.
Whatever. There used to be a Google Chrome add-on that translated feminist posts and articles into Nazi propaganda by just swapping out like It would swap out Jews for men and women for Germans, and it just instantly became Nazi propaganda.
Since you're
Yeah.
defending,
Wild.
atheism, do you guys see this picture? Do you
Carson's kind of in the way of it, but
hold on? Let me. Here.
there we go. Yeah, I
Oh,
can see it.
Since you're defending atheism, why don't you defend that existing? Go ahead.
is
Go
that?
I think-
ahead.
I think that is mental illness.
Is that
Yeah, I think atheism is just a side effect of that mental illness.
it?
Okay, so I guess back to the conversation at hand.
Oh,
So, um, looking this up, let's see, is it showing this? Okay, so these are like atheist meetups, I guess.
That's sort of what I mean.
Humanists.
Going back to it, like when you make atheism your identity, when that's the purpose of the meetup, that's where you get the people that are the stereotype you were talking about.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of
I feel the same can be said for the religious side too. Like I don't know how many TikToks, YouTube things I've seen from religious people that are just batshit crazy. like once people get into an echo chamber, it becomes very dangerous for no matter what side it is. And
for sure.
But I do think there's a point to the whole idea of the largest organized atheist groups not even talking quantity, just on quality, not being the same as the largest organized religious groups
right.
in terms of like giving to their communities and whatnot. In terms of
Not yet.
scientific credentials,
Not yet. Yeah, not yet.
but you have to think like, okay, so you're deferring to not yet. So let's look up rates of atheism, autism, rates of atheism, U.S.
I would just say like look up the birth rate difference between atheists and theists, and then say like, what's the future of atheism even really look like? Where we can't.
I'm a proponent of lower birth rates being a good thing. So,
I'm against that. So,
but I have
So-
I have 9 kids, so I can't say shit.
I think that's a problematic.
You should have 3 more
aspect.
kids.
So it looks like about 1 in 20 people are now atheist.
Yeah.
So that's compared to 19. Where did that just go? 91. So compared to 1991, 2% would have identified as atheist, and 4% would have identified as agnostic. Currently, you have no.
Yes, that's a tenfold.
9% of Americans currently agreed with the statement, I do not believe in God. So that's closer to 1 in 10.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're at those numbers currently, 1 in every 10 people, I feel like saying not yet. Like what kind of a majority are you waiting for? Because like
I'd say before you could make an equivalent judge, it'd have to be 50-50, where like 50% are like, hey, and then you'd really get because 1 out of 10 organizations that help people probably are atheist bound or non-religious.
okay, so currently 20% of Americans go to church once a week. So that's 1 in 5. So that means 4 out of 5 don't go to church every week.
Right.
And honestly, you're gonna clean that up. Like if you went to church every other week, you would probably say that you went to church every week. Just realistically, loading those numbers. I feel like if you're in the majority here, and like people that don't attend church, like you're not doing anything to help your community. Otherwise, like
I just feel like a lot of the
I feel like there's so many atheists, and I don't feel like there's 1 in 10 Americans. That's like 30 million people, 40 million people now, right?
Yeah.
But how many, if you look at how much revenue churches bring in and how much it would take to solve the homeless problem, those numbers get really scary. Like,
I think the
because then you
The
start
solution
asking
to
how much are they
homelessness-
really contributing?
homelessness
The
and
homeless
hunger
problem's
is
a lot more
not
than
is not
money.
solved with money. I just want to put that out there. Homelessness and hunger is not going to be solved with money alone.
Yeah.
It's a lot more complex and a lot more dynamic than that.
There's a
just-
book
Sure.
called The Idealist, something about Jeffrey Sachs, who's some famous economist. And it's about his project trying to solve world hunger in Africa. It's a project goes from like 2001 to 2010 or something. I don't know how long it goes, but it's a super fascinating book for just all the cultural hurdles they were running into that they couldn't have foreseen. Like the guy spends $100 million on chemically treated mosquito nets, and then they go back to a village a month later, and a guy's got a mosquito net over his goat, protecting his goat. And like, dude, this is for your family and your kids. And he's like, I can make more kids.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, like, how do you bridge the gap there to get them closer to a modern economy when their worldview is like, my kids are expendable, but my goat isn't? Like,
Okay,
that's just a massive hurdle.
I'm going to give you guys a bit of a prompt, and then I'm going to let you guys talk. I got to go check on my son really quick. Okay.
I'm actually
So-
gonna hop. If you could put me into like the thing where I can just watch here,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that, and then because I gotta get in kids' bed and shit too. So
Oh, you can just watch the stream. Just go online then. I posted everything on my wall.
okay, cool. I will do that. So I'm gonna take it.
If you're in the background here, you're not going to be able to see us at all. I don't think.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that works. But yeah, I got to go in and get the kids and stuff, getting ready for bed. So
Yeah, no problem.
it's been a pleasure. It was nice meeting you guys. I'd love to do this
Hey,
again.
man.
It's been fun.
Thank you
Another
for coming on.
topic. All right. See you guys.
Yeah, good night, man.
Okay.
So what are we gonna chat on?
Okay. So wait, Don, you're coming from more of like a Christian perspective,
Yes, sir.
and you're also coming from a Christian perspective.
I'm happy to switch teams.
Well,
Okay.
I could have. Did you grow up Christian and you were always Christian?
I grew up Catholic. My last time in Mass.
Well, I'm just wondering because, like, I grew up Christian. I got out of it for like a decade, and I'm back in it for like 5 years now. That could be a topic.
That I'd be happy with that. I'm looking at sort of maybe getting back into one myself. At the moment, if I was to give scorecard rankings, I think the Mormons might be up there with the Catholics, but I'm not really sure.
So
who's
Mormons,
taking me over.
like Mormons, you have Utah, right, which is
Yeah.
the second
The
most
super
religious
Mormon.
state, all right,
Yeah.
and is also the most peaceful state as far as like anti-crime. The Mormons,
They just got their shit together.
I'm
Like-
not going to convert to Mormonism,
They
but
It is-
their sense of community is
Yeah.
unparalleled.
yeah,
It
like
really,
A+
really
community. They all seem to do economically
Hey, I gotta go
well.
check on my son. I'll be right
They
back.
all have healthy families that have good grades. Like, what the hell are the Mormons doing?
They're doing something.
Yeah.
I know what they're doing. They're taking care of their own.
I had this might be blasphemous. I don't want to give too much information about it in case I get the guy in trouble. But I'm one of those people who invites the Mormons in every time they come knocking because I want to talk. And
Never seen one.
and anyway, I like befriended a group of Mormons who were doing their circuit for their mission groups, and they invited me to come meet one of their elders one day. And I'm talking to this guy, father of 3 in his 40s or something. And I can't remember exactly what he said, which kills me to this day. I wish I could quote him verbatim. But he said something along the lines of like, most of the people in our church don't believe everything that the church says everyone believes, but it's a great community to raise kids in, and just like don't rock the boat. and it's just like, oh shit, that's the best argument for religion I've ever heard. Like, as a secular guy who doesn't believe in God, sign me up. Like, where? Okay, what time are we supposed to be here? Like, it just changed the perspective immediately. And since then, I've just seen so many like early Catholic theologians who would talk about some of their like doubts and challenges in their own world, in their own time, looking at their own doctrine.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
Well, you know, what you said about rocking the boat, yeah, that's right. I mean, rocking the boat needs to be done occasionally, but not to the point where it destroys the fabric of the community, you know?
Yeah. Like if your pastor is steering your community in the wrong way, somebody's got to rock the boat enough to knock him off, maybe. But
well, that's why I love the pastor that I have at the church. I like right now. I go to a non-denominational church. I'd much rather be going to a Lutheran church, but the church I go to is non-denominational because I used to go to the church that this guy preached at, and he got kicked out of there because it was mostly a lot of old folk in the congregation, and this is crazy. They didn't like the fact that he dressed too casual. He would show up. He would be wearing like like nice blue jeans and a belt and a button-down shirt tucked in, but he wasn't wearing a tie and a suit coat. So,
like,
he ended up starting his own church, and he started it in this community in the town that I live in. So now there's 5 churches in our tiny little community, and his church just keeps growing and growing. In fact, next year we have to move to a 3rd location because our congregation keeps getting bigger and bigger. But anyway, what I was getting at with him, because of what you said, was he is that pastor that people leave there thinking like, man, he really made me think about myself. Like, I'm not leaving here feeling all happy-go-lucky, like, woohoo. I'm leaving here thinking, shit, I got to change myself, you know?
Yeah, I got work to do.
Yeah, and that's what's great about the pastor I currently have.
Yeah, there's something to that formal setting, though. Like, if I were to pick a top 3 of the churches I'm aware of, Catholicism and Mormonism are probably my top 2. Catholicism higher just because it's what I grew up in and I'm familiar with. Mormons make a great case, but part of me also wants to attend Latin Mass, like Catholic Latin Mass. There's something about that just seems so appealing and like
so.
We got the Catholic church around here does Latin Mass on Christmas. They don't usually do it, but for the Christmas Mass, they have a Latin guy come in.
Yeah, like just to be part of the ritual. Like,
I'm Hispanic, right?
Yeah. Oh, then you have to be Catholic.
Yes, there's can't really avoid it.
Yeah, even the atheists are
Latin Catholic. Mass is so fun. It's so.
It feels like a historical adventure kind of thing. Like,
yeah, it feels like you're watching. I don't know how to explain this.
Rome, the TV show from a decade ago.
It's like you're watching Coronado discover. No, never mind.
This guy's going to talk about a bunch of Spanish exploratory guys from the 1600s.
So I
Road El Dorado.
So me personally, sorry, I had to get a piece of banana bread. I made banana bread today.
I just bought some today. So.
I got like 6 boxes in my cupboard I need to make, but I don't have the bananas for it.
So I went from pretty religious upbringing to I would say around 13-ish. I just kind of backed away from everything. I felt like nothing made sense. I felt like I kind of
knew better.
Yeah. Like I was the smartest person and who needs church, and it's, flying spaghetti monster. I bit the bait is exactly what I did. Going through just a lot of personal stuff. I kind of got lost in wondering like what my purpose is, and I guess that's what turned my focus back to religion. I have a surface level understanding of a couple of different branches of religion, from Taoism to Buddhism to regular Christianity to Judaism to even some Muslim stuff. And I felt like nothing was right, and I felt like it kind of drove me further away because I refused to accept any of these ideologies. And then my friend's mom was like, you should go talk to a priest. Talk to him and tell him how you're feeling, and see if basically the belief in divine intervention is that if a person of religious principle or authority is in front of you, can clarify your thoughts on, is it, if they can address so many of your insecurities with something, maybe you're heading in the right direction. That's basically how I've always understood it. I guess religious intervention can also be like, you stop to sneeze so a tree doesn't fall on you, and you're like, God did it. But so for me, I went in and I riddled this guy with questions, and I was basically like, none of this makes sense. This is why it doesn't. And I had the same question that Andy had, where I was like, well, I want to believe in science. And he was like, okay.
Yeah. It's so funny how the online community has somehow made that such a core part of the religion versus irreligion debate.
Yeah.
Because like I'm sure you guys know Bill Maher, and have you seen his movie Religulous? He's got a documentary about religion.
Wait, is Bill Maher who I think it is? Hold on.
He's the pale ghost.
You're gonna tell me that there's a guy and you're not gay? That guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He had a documentary that I liked when I was younger, where he just goes around the world and talks to a bunch of religious people, and it's like a super interesting thing because he just meets some wild religious people. So that,
dude, I remember when I was an atheist, I got massively into that movie.
Yeah, but there's like, he meets a Catholic priest at one point, and they start talking about science, and the Catholic priest is just like, well, yeah. Like, oh, so the universe is 13 billion years old, and he's like, well, of course it is. He's like, keeps expecting to get pushback on these science claims, and the priest is at the Vatican is just like, no, yeah, that's right. Nothing wrong with believing both of these things. And I
don't remember if it was Bill Nye or not, but he came out with this like a religious movie in like 2016. No, 2006. My bad. Like 2006, 2007. No, it was Bill Stein. That's who it was.
Do you guys remember Zeitgeist?
Oh man, I loved that movie for about 2 years, and then found out a bunch of stuff, and it's just not really right.
Yeah, well, that was another one way back in the day that I clung to.
Yeah, I got some buddies who still like it and will swear by it. I'm sure they watch it once a year.
Yeah, it didn't take me too long to figure out, like, this is, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just not anything worth your time.
My dad worked in construction of steel buildings for like 30 years or something. And I went up to him with one of the 9/11 claims about the like, oh, the beams wouldn't have fallen, and he just like laughed in my face. And that turned me around pretty quick. Wasn't it controlled demolition? He just looks at me like, no.
So your dad was an iron worker?
No, he worked mostly in like warehouses, steel warehouses.
Okay.
There was like building steel buildings, so he had a good understanding of their ability to do fire.
The structural integrity and everything.
Yeah. So it's like, look, like you only need a couple bolts to fuck up, and that whole thing's coming down. Like, oh, that's reassuring. Think about that next time I'm in a high building.
So that whole thing, the doesn't melt steel beam thing.
I love the mix-up of the sentence.
Hold on. Sorry. The whole steel beam thing. The only thing I can make out of your barely coherent rambling is that you sound extremely narcissistic and sociopathic. Seek help through a therapist and Jesus.
Is that towards me, I guess?
I don't know. Garrett, who's that too?
Because I think I'm the only one who doesn't currently seek Jesus.
Come on, Garrett. We need a little more. Give us a little more meat on the bones there.
Oh, so the whole doesn't.
I would agree with that comment. If it's about me, I'm fine with that.
the doesn't melt steel beams meme. You remember the jet fuel?
Yeah.
Thing? Well, the thing is, it doesn't need that. Well, whatever. Sorry.
Yeah. So like cube theory, right? Like it just has to get hot enough to like compress. Like that's the whole thing. Is like they think it has to turn
to liquid.
Yeah, they think it has to like turn to liquid, otherwise the building can't fall down. And it's like
you got to heat it up like a little bit.
I mean, it's still it burns at like 2,000 degrees, doesn't it?
Anyone who's worked with metal enough and gets it red hot understand.
Oh yeah, there's a great video that goes around every once in a while of some guy with a rod, like a steel construction rod of some sort, heats it up and just bends it over with like one finger, and he's like, "You're all idiots. Doesn't have to melt."
So a kiln is 2,000 to 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is literally to melt metal, right? And then jet fuel.
Burns,
9/11.
Am I wrong?
It burns at 2,500 degrees.
Oh, I was way low.
Like, I don't know. Can this not be about 9/11? I mean, I guess it could be. There's nobody to push back against anymore. Like, I don't. Unless I'm supposed to be. Oh wait, am I supposed to argue with you now?
How about I can
argue with me?
I can take the Christianity is bad for society because it can't keep sustaining itself through this atheistic age, and then the atheists are going to stop procreating, and then there's going to be no humanity left, and it's all the Christians' fault for not being compelling enough.
So you believe that it is
the more atheistic society gets, the less we reproduce. That's going to lead to the population bomb, going to break civilization. And it's because the Christians couldn't keep people in churches.
So you think that atheism has done a good job of presenting itself?
Yeah.
Well, you gotta phrase that right.
Case that also,
you gotta phrase that right. Satan has done a good job as presenting atheism as a good option.
Atheism has done a good job of making a compelling case that religion, not just theism, is a bad thing when it's not.
So atheism's argument at its very core is nothing divine could have ever happened to get us to the place that we are, that we somehow have a greater syntactic understanding than any other animal on Earth.
Can I say one thing that I've always thought about that?
Yeah.
People have always said, it's absolutely crazy, because they always want to say, like, God just snapped his fingers and here we are. Wow, that's crazy. I can't believe you believe in Sky Daddy, right?
Yeah.
And my response is always, well, don't you think it's just as insane that there was just a cluster of gas just sitting out there in the middle of nothing, and it was just sitting there? And your argument is, God exists? Well, who created God? Okay, well, your argument is that this cluster of gas exists. Why is that cluster of gas there? And then on top of that, what made that cluster of gas just explode. And then on top of that, you believe that cluster of gas just randomly created this. And on top of that, you believe that it's still expanding constantly. And you're going to try to tell me that me believing in an omnipotent God and a talking snake is crazy, but you believe that and that's not crazy?
What drives me nuts about that framing of argument that you're talking about is I don't think, okay, so there are answers to all those questions. I could give you some book recommendations, but I don't even really care about that. The thing is, like, I can't prove that the universe started during the time of this conversation and an omnipotent God just put all the memories in my head.
Last Thursdayism.
Like I can't know that the universe isn't 5 minutes old.
That's what that's called, last Thursdayism.
Yeah, and it's just
Bebop does a whole video about it.
And it's just like, okay, if we're gonna get into that argument, I can't know that's the case. But the problem with the atheism theism debate, I think, is that the atheist position isn't, again, I don't think it's an affirmative claim. It's basically apolitical. Like if we're talking about politics, there's Democrats, there's Republicans, there's independents, and there's the apolitical. And the apolitical are people who just don't give a shit.
Wouldn't that be more of the agnostic?
The people who belong to the independent Republican or Democrat side have to find a way to convince them to give a shit. And a lot of Democrats have decided to stop giving a shit. And that's how the atheists grow, is just people stop giving a shit because they either run into an argument that they think proves God isn't real, or they're not getting enough value from the church they're going to, or they think their pastor's an asshole, or there's another dozen reasons.
Yeah.
But
you don't think that's more agnostic though than atheist?
There's a argument I really like that separates those two things, where Gnosticism goes to what you know and theism goes to what you believe. So there's like Gnostic atheists and agnostic atheists. So
and there's also
Gnostic
a atheist
and agnostic. So like
I love the idea of an atheist that thinks he knows.
Yeah. I used to joke that was me. Like, there's a Richard Dawkins 7-point scale, and I used to say that I was an 8.
I hate Richard Dawkins so much.
I used to say that I was an 8 because 7 was for pussies. The 8 would be like, I hadn't even run into a description of a god that I thought could possibly exist. Whereas a 7 is just like, I don't believe in gods or whatever. Whereas I at the time I was rejecting even the concept beyond that. Like, somebody can't even describe this in a coherent manner. They just say a word and think it means a thing, but it doesn't.
So for me, me personally, I think that I find here, I'm going to read you a quote, all right, that I think is a really good description.
Yeah, I went to a church 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
Just because they were having a speaker. And I was like the youngest person in the building by a good 15 years, probably more. And the speaker was just talking about how they're losing people in the church. The reason that I was the youngest person in the building is because they aren't pushing the literalist interpretation of the Bible hard enough. And I was just sitting in this church going like, man, you got it so backwards.
In my own personal opinion, I believe that the Bible was meant as allegorical as well as literal. I think that there's a lot of lessons that get looked over. A thing that I do pretty commonly is I will post quotes from the Bible, and I will give the source of the quote as someone else. I do it a lot on Reddit, and people are like, "Oh, this is so deep. Where this? I never read this book by this person. What chapter is this?" And I'm like, "It's the Bible." And I've been banned from so many subreddits. Like, they're like, "Oh, this is deep. Oh, this is insightful," and then they find out it's from the Bible, and then I get banned. Whether or not, I think if you entertain it in a literal way or an allegorical way, I think ideally it should be creating parameters for how you should act in society. Whether the level of your devotion that you choose is completely fine.
Yeah.
Some people go to church once a year and are pretty damn good people. Some people go every week and are shitheads. That's just the truth of the matter. Okay, so I wanted to get into something proof, something concrete. I guess that's where I think a lot of atheists struggle. They don't see it's imperceptible to see any reality in which God exists. Like that's kind of the premise of what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to read a quote, and this quote, I guess, best or most succinctly explains how I feel as far as proof. Okay. It's a quote from Sherlock Holmes. There's nothing in which deduction is so necessary as religion. He said, I'm going to skip this part. It can be built up as an exact science by the reasoner. Our highest assurance in the goodness of providence seems to me to rest in the flowers. All other things, our powers, our desires, our food, are all really necessary for our existence in the first instance. But this rose is not. Its smell and its color are an embellishment of life, not a condition of it. It is only goodness which gives extras, and so that I say again, we have much to hope from the flowers. I think that the beauty of God existing to me lies in very simple things like, I guess not really simple, but love. I think, for instance, to me, that's an example of divine providence. That's to me proof of God. Me having free will to do what I enjoy. I know that you're going to go down this rabbit hole of free will isn't real. I feel like that's.
I have the twist I like to put on it is, I think you have the free will to do what you were always going to. To have done otherwise would be to be somebody else in that moment.
I think that I have made a lot of bad decisions and mistakes, and I have the ability to still make those mistakes. I do. I don't have the will to do those things anymore. I don't have the will to get, drink I don't know if you were my friend when I chugged that entire bottle of Hypnotic on New Year's Eve. This is like 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I chugged a big bottle of Hypnotic. I'll never do that again.
See, the thing is,
I have the choice to do that.
If we could make a time paradox here with some sci-fi nonsense.
Sure.
If I could take your consciousness right now, you've seen the butterfly effect?
Sure.
And we're going to butterfly effect you back to that night as you are now. Are you drinking the bottle again, or with your having that experience and memory in you, do you choose not to?
So since I chose
to do it,
I now would choose not to. But if I had not chose to, I couldn't choose not to because I have no frame of reference.
Let's say instead of the time paradox, we're splitting it into a multiverse. So the universe where you drink it exists, but you're going back in time and have the opportunity to make a branch where you didn't drink it. Do you make that branch or do you drink it again?
If I had to experience it again, if I could give myself the ability to not have experienced it in the first place, I could not. It's paradoxical.
It is. But I feel like that's sort of how I look at free will, where people say like, I could have acted otherwise. And I go like, could you? Like you did the thing that was
you could
to do.
I mean, I could
if you could have acted otherwise, it would have meant you're this older version of you who knows better now. And that's not the same person who it was.
Like, I could choose not to go to the gym. I could choose not to brush my teeth. I could choose not to litter. I love littering, so I'm going to keep doing it. But I could choose not to do that.
And I'm just not 100% sure that's actually true. I think it's just something we tell ourselves to get through the day.
What do you mean?
Andrew's lying when he says he loves littering?
No, of course not.
It's kind of bold, but
I just think that, like, so I could choose to do or not do a thing tomorrow, but whatever choice I do make was always going to be the choice that was made in this reality by me. Otherwise, I would be somebody else at that second, and I'm not going to be somebody else. I'm going to be me, the person who makes that decision.
So basically, your argumentation for this is like you were always going to make the decisions that you were going to make.
Yeah,
like you wouldn't be you if you were not making those decisions.
Yeah, we definitionally do the best we can with what we have, and we're always gaining more.
Right. So
we're going to make few decisions. But we have to make other decisions to get there.
But saying the best we can impedes on your point, though, because like your freedom to make the choice that is the best for you would be the freedom of that choice. That is your will to do that choice. I feel like this is going to be the most beneficial for me. Eating chicken or steak for dinner is your choice, right?
Yes, it is. But
okay, so you have the freedom.
I was always going to.
Unless you weren't.
Shit. There's a fun game that the first time I ran into this argument was like, oh shit, this changed my mind. The guy played a game with it. Let's see if I can remember how it goes, but it's think of a city, any city. Okay, why didn't you pick Cairo?
I did.
Really?
Yes.
Hilarious.
I was like, you're never gonna guess Cairo, so I picked Cairo.
But there, you had a reason, and I'm not sure that you actually chose to have that thought inspire you. I think it's a thought that is just a thought you would have. So you didn't have control over the thing that drove you to pick the city. And like, you were never going to pick the cities you've never heard of. You were never going to pick the cities that didn't occur to you to pick in that second. You are only going to pick the cities that it might have occurred to you in that second. And of those cities, you picked the one because of a question that I don't know that you chose to have.
But it's a conditional exclusion, so like...
And like, now if we could go back in time, you pick another city. But you'd only do that knowing what you do now.
But you were wrapping your conclusion around my response. I didn't wrap my response around your conclusion.
Okay, run that by me again. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh.
So
I feel like I need a paper or something.
Okay.
To draw this out.
Here you go. Hold on.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah. Hold on.
Give me 30 seconds.
Okay, you see this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, okay. Like, we have a linear...
Wait, hold on. No. Okay. All right. So this is my response. Okay.
Okay.
Wait, I don't know if 3D Paint works like, hold on, let me pick a secondary color. No, it doesn't. Okay. Okay. You ready?
Those are some lopsided tits, but I am ready.
It's actually Pikachu's eyes.
Okay.
You pervert. Okay. So yellow. All right. Yellow is your response.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Blue is my answer.
Okay.
Or if you want to, I guess let's use some alternate framing here. So yellow
Why are
is
we drawing Ukrainian boobs?
because we're part of the horseshoe theory. All right. So yellow is your reaction, rather. Blue is my response. Are
Yeah.
we clear?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to explain this to you. So blue is my answer. The right side is what happened. And what I mean by that is you drew a net around what it is or what you would like for it to be. It has nothing to do with what it is. You are creating your
Yeah, like
presupposing.
your
No,
answer was relevant, or it's supposed
No,
to be.
yeah, because of
Yeah.
a presupposition, though.
Yeah. Agreed.
So the presupposition would be that I have to. Okay, hold on. Okay, so you're presupposing that, like, if I do or don't make a choice that you do or don't agree with, that it is
It was the
right or
choice you were
wrong
doomed to
based
make.
on your own presupposition that it can never be correct or incorrect.
It's it's like an unfalsifiable situation. Like I don't have a experimental universe to test drive if you would make a different choice. So I don't know if there's free will or not. But that's why I like the thought experiment of like, let's put you in a prior experience, knowing what you know now. Do you choose to go through with the experience? And I think most people in a lot of cases don't, because they know something new. And I feel like that's sort of evidence of the people have a weird view of free will that doesn't quite match what physical reality actually is.
Okay, say you want to go on vacation
Yeah.
next month.
Yeah.
You can pick any European country. Okay?
Yep.
Spot, it's paid for. You get a free lodging while you're there. You can see all the sights.
Perfect. Love it.
Where did you pick?
Let's go Germany.
Congratulations. You picked Germany because you felt like that's something you wanted to do.
Yeah, like
I feel like this is Occam's razor. It's Occam's razor to say that, like, free will doesn't exist for the sake of exclusions that you could make or inclusions that you could make. This is my understanding of it, and we may not. There may not be any overlap in our understandings or our perception of what free will is, and maybe that's possibly where we derive the differences of.
Let me rewind for a second.
Okay.
So there's a separate claim that I think is universally true, that maybe it's controversial, I don't know. But it's that people act in accord with their beliefs. They'll lie to themselves, but you can tell what their beliefs are by what they do. Somebody tells me they believe they can fly. I'm not gonna believe it till I see you try, man. Like, I don't believe that you think that's true until I see effort put forward.
Well, let's put Newton's flaming laser sword into this. Do we need to?
What's her?
Newton's flaming laser sword.
Is that a thing I'm unfamiliar with, or is that just something?
It's related to Occam's razor.
I've never heard of it. I don't think.
It's Alder's razor.
It basically just means that if you can't prove it through experiment, then it's not even worth debating.
Yeah, this is exactly that. This is exactly that topic, because we don't have the experimental reality to tinker with things.
I only know about that because of the reason I know about a lot of things. Vsauce.
Oh, Vsauce has some great stuff. I haven't watched that in a while.
So, so Vsauce is really, really informative. So it's like, I've always seen this argument. It's like you need statistics to prove a statement. You need citation.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, bro, but I don't need citation when it comes to the Lord.
I don't need citation for most things. Maybe not most things. There's a lot of stuff I'm not going to need citation for. If I tell you to not put your hand in a bear's ass or it's likely to bite you, I doubt you're going to ask me for a citation for it.
Yo, do you
Hey, bro, are you sure about that? Can you prove that to me?
Can you prove that a lion would kill a baby? I don't think there's been enough
studies.
Can you prove that a lion would kill a baby wearing a yellow hat?
Yeah, I had dressed my baby up in a zebra costume. I can't believe the lions got him.
There's no studies on it warning me not to.
Okay, so I guess let's So you're saying that you were always going to side along with your faith, or is that what you said? Your faith?
Okay, so people act in accordance with their beliefs, and those change over time. So the thing you did at time X is in accordance with the things you believed at time X, and X plus whatever experience might change what you would have done in that moment. But if that experience is like you needed to do X to have it, your beliefs haven't changed. You're still going to act in accordance with the beliefs you had at time X.
Okay.
And
you're saying that your actions are going to be congruous to what you feel is correct.
Yeah.
Which would be...
And people might lie about it. People might not even know that they're lying to themselves about it. But I think that their actions explain their...
So you've never done anything in your life where you were like, this is a bad idea. I will genuinely never done that.
No, I think it's that this is a bad idea, but, and whatever is in that but is going to overwhelm the reason it's a bad idea, and that's why you do it. And
but it wouldn't be a bad idea if it went if it was in accordance with your beliefs, then it wouldn't be a bad idea.
It's like it would. This is a bad idea, but it's gonna be awesome.
Sure. Yeah. I get what you're saying. I'm saying is the
belief it's gonna be awesome is stronger than the belief it's a bad idea.
I get the premise of it that you only act in a way that you feel is acceptable, unless you are willing to create an exception. That's the premise of what you're saying.
Pretty much.
What I'm saying in response to that is that no, people make stupid and bad decisions all the time, and if you have to make an exception, you don't believe the rule.
I think going back.
I've done that. I gotta say, I've done that a million times. I've made the exception to the rule. But yeah, you shouldn't. You certainly shouldn't do that.
I just feel like when you peel the layers back of why did you do X, Y, or Z, you end up in a similar conundrum to the city situation, where you couldn't have chosen cities you've never heard of. So you're limited. You're like, there's layers of constraint to what you could have done. And at some point you say, I'm going to do X instead of Y because, and the thing that you're saying because about, I'm not sure that you actually chose that thing. I think it's a thing that just occurred to you because that's who you are fundamentally at that point in your life.
Have you ever had pomegranate juice?
Not that I can remember.
Okay.
Love it.
So I drink pomegranate juice, and I had not had it my entire life.
Everclear.
So pomegranate juice, drinking it, is neither a positive nor a negative in my life because I had never experienced it, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
In making the choice to drink pomegranate juice for the first time, there's no epistemic, emotional, like there's no ties to any, like, there's no negative, there's no positive. It's just a thing that I can do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a positive or a negative, right?
Right.
I could choose to do it.
You
Right?
can believe that.
What do you mean?
Um,
I have done it just as you have never done it.
yeah,
So my
But-
choice was to, your choice was to not.
but every day prior to you having done it, you also could have and didn't.
Correct.
So whatever day
That's
that
what
you,
I'm saying, bro.
yeah,
That's
but like
what I'm saying is that I did it and then I
the
did.
first day that you had the pomegranate juice, there was a lifetime of experiences that led you to that moment, and for whatever reason that you may not be aware of, you chose pomegranate juice
There's a lifetime of experiences that led me
to choose pomegranate juice
all
whatever day.
the pomegranate background. It wasn't just me walking into a store, walking past it, saying, "Hey, I wonder what this is." Never had it before, seen it in a bottle. I want to
See-
grab this.
Exactly. That's the reason.
There's no conditioning involved in it.
No.
It's me seeing a thing and being like, "What is this thing? I
But-
want to do that."
If we could have hit rewind on the tape that is this reality and go before you had pomegranate juice and hit play, and when you walk by it and look at it, I'm not sure that you have any control over whether you grab it on that day or not. But if I put you back,
I feel like it's
it's
this
an
is just-
unjustifiable position.
I feel like it's
totally get that.
Occam's razor. That's what I feel. I feel like there's this like overcomplication of I can do thing.
Maybe it's okay. So I've had this experience, and maybe I'm just over applying it beyond where it belongs. But so for my work at one of the conferences I went to, they had one of those is it ECG helmets, the brain scan helmets?
Yeah, EKG. Well, yeah, no, ECG.
Yeah, whatever letters they are, E and G are in there.
Yeah. No, ECG is electrocardiogram.
I got to participate in a study where they did the brain scan on me. But before the study starts, I'm just looking at the raw data on a screen, and it's all these charts going up and down, all my brain waves. I don't understand any of it, obviously. And I keep seeing this massive spike, and I'm like, is that my pulse? No, it's too irregular to be my pulse. But there's clearly just a wild spike going through every periodically as I'm staring at this data, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell am I having a stroke? Should I tell somebody about this spike? And then it occurs to me, the spike is the electrical signal traveling through my scalp, telling me to blink. And I can see it happen before I blink, and I can't not blink. And it was like a borderline out-of-body experience for me.
What do you mean?
Seeing the signal telling my body that you're going to blink, and then I would blink, and there was nothing I could do about it.
But you can currently choose to blink. You could choose not to blink.
I can choose to blink, but it takes the time for that signal to travel to my eyeball, and I could see that before it happens. Like I can see the signal before the action. And
So
I'm not
that's
sure that every idea that you have isn't similar to that, where you have something goes off in your brain, an electrical signal goes off, and the electrical signal map in your brain is the thought, but you only have conscious awareness of the thought after.
Okay. So this is going to be the premise of my argument here.
Okay.
Wait, hold on.
Like maybe that's only true for like muscles or whatever, and maybe within your own thoughts and ideas, you do have more control over which wires are going to get lit up next. But at least for that, from my experience and awareness of some of the arguments, that was a wild experience. And they're just like, oh, wow, I'm going to do a thing and there's nothing I can do about it. That's a little disconcerting.
Okay, so that I would kind of constitute this, right? That's an
Yeah.
involuntary action. What I'm saying is, like your life breaks down to these two things right here: what is forced, what you choose to do. Okay, so for me, you've never had pomegranate juice, and I know this is kind of it's
Yeah.
just for the sake of simplicity. I'm trying to not
Pump out
make you
experiment.
come all the way over to my side, but I'm trying to make you scooch over a little bit so you can kind of, I guess, interpret where I'm coming from. Okay, so what you are forced to do. I think that this is what you are saying that your experiences result in, is you are forced to do them either by, I don't know, let's say an epistemic reality, or by, I guess, the coercion of a moral code, or I guess an amalgamation of all experiences leading up to this moment is what makes you do things. Is that fair? Am I framing what you said fairly? Do you think? If you think I'm oversimplifying it, just let me know.
Framing it properly, but I don't feel right word.
What? Wait, hold on.
Like
say that again. You cut out a little bit.
I think you were framing me properly, but I'm not sure I would agree that force is the right word to use to describe the situation that's happening.
So, force, that's just external. So, an external means of you arriving at something.
Yeah. There's I forget the name of it right now, but there's a great thing in the free will debate where some people try to separate, like, reality stops you from eating because there's no food. So that's why you choose not to eat. Or you can have food abundantly and choose to fast and choose not to eat. And those aren't the same two things. Like, one is internal choice not to eat because food is available, and the other one is forced upon you by reality that there's no food available, so you don't get to eat.
Right. So that would be force versus choice.
Yeah. And
choice would be free will, and force you're saying is not free will.
I'm saying that situation exists, and the difference between those is important, but I'm not sure that you have any more actual control over the internal. The things that led to the decision to fast, I'm not sure you have any more control over those things than you do the food supply. It just, our conscious minds trick us into thinking we do, but I'm not sure that's actually the case. Weirdly, I feel like my view makes it easier for me, at least, to conceptualize a God that I could see existing, which is weird because most people see God as a reason for free will to exist. And I sort of almost see it the other way around. Was just a strange situation to be in.
Sorry, I keep like scooting back and forth. This chair is becoming uncomfortable. Okay, so can you still hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a very long comment. What does this say? Is this all on there? God makes all of our choices, even the ones we don't make. God is totality. There is no need to speak of free will. Freedom is in the experience. If we weren't free, we would be with God. No human experience. Technically, we are free, but the freedom is prepackaged.
Like, I basically agree with this. Like, I think this is a great argument for God.
I 100% agree with that.
And like, the life you're living is the life that, like, if you want to call it God, I'm happy to. It's the life that was quote unquote mapped out, whether deliberately or not.
Recently, I saw one of those memes with like the Chad Wojak, and it was someone saying something about like, oh, you're you're so weak that you completely depend on this God for everything in your life. And then the other side was the Chad Wojak saying, yeah, now you're getting it. And to me, that is 100% it. Yes, that is it.
I don't.
I'm not in control.
Okay, so
of my life.
this is my own interpretation of why I feel like
There's a
free
mistake.
will. So accepting and loving Christ. That's supposed to be a choice. Correct?
Correct. It's a choice that he gave us. Yeah.
I would just yeah.
Free will.
Yeah. I would
So
Well,
like,
exactly.
you-
And free will right there is the answer right there for so many people. Oh, why do bad things happen?
I
Boom.
just-
Free will.
I feel
Motherfucker. You cocksucker. Free will.
I feel like excluding.
Like,
Hold on,
read the
hold on,
first three
hold on,
pages of
hold
the
on.
Bible. You'll know that answer.
I got a couple of different things I got to address.
I'm sorry. I
So-
don't want.
Hold on. So Carson, I feel like we're making the exclusion of choice as existent with the premise of reason. So like if I can reason something, then it's no longer a choice. If I have a reasoning for doing something, it's no longer a choice. It's no longer free will.
I think it's like reason is one of the tools
But
that we
that's-
use to make choices. But I think it's
Right.
even
So
like,
it's the premise of why you would make that choice. Like
okay,
you would be willing to make that choice because of the reason.
let me
It's the
take a
foundational
different angle at it.
underpinning of choice is to have a reason to do it.
Let me take a different angle at it for a second, and maybe
Okay.
this will at least make sense whether or not you accept it or not.
Okay.
But the okay, so if I launch a rock with a certain velocity at a certain angle,
Okay.
we can agree that like reality is predictable in that fashion. It's going to land at a certain spot.
Sure.
And moving into biology, I don't understand it well, but I know that you can trick ants into following a pheromone trail and make them
Mhm.
walk wherever you want to make them walk, because
You can
they'll
also
just
do it with chalk.
yeah,
Could I just say that's not tricking them? It's pheromones.
yeah, that's
Well, it's kind of
exactly,
tricking
thank you.
them,
Yeah, it's
though. It's kind of tricking them. Like,
yeah.
I mean, sure. Okay.
But like
I'll go along with it. Yeah, let's go along
that
with it.
sort of nitpicking is almost exactly what I'm getting to, where
Yeah, I'm
I
splitting
think-
hairs.
I
I
think
know I'm splitting
humans-
hairs.
humans are similarly directed as those ants in a predictable fashion. There's just so many variables beyond our comprehension to make any sort of predictive model about it. But the laws of the universe, if you were a god who was omniscient, you would know he's going to make this decision next because these are the things that have happened. And then because of that
Yeah.
decision, he's going to make this decision next because of the things that have happened. And if you knew every single possible thing, every electron firing in your brain that's ever happened, and the consequence of that electron firing, I think you could write the script. And I think that being would be God. But I think that's also like the reality we live in is the next thing is dependent on the last thing. But when
No,
you
I get what you're saying. It's everything's reactionary. Is that's what you're saying basically? Is like everything's just a reaction to
the last thing,
yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
It's like it's the world's most complicated game of billiards, is the physicists like to say. Like it's just a bunch of atoms bouncing off each other.
Yeah, and I mean,
There's too many of them to
yeah,
know exactly what's going
like
to
what
happen.
you said, reactions are just gonna happen. But I mean, the thing is in something like this, it's not just point A hits point B and we come to point C. There's a lot of
It's like
there's a
point
lot of
A
shit in
hits
between.
every
There's a lot of
alphabet that
variables.
could
There's a lot
exist.
of variables that need to be discussed in between.
Yeah.
You
To
don't
me,
just come from this point to that point and then boom, here we're at that point. There's like things to discuss in between.
yeah. To me, it's like
And I think it can be done. It can be done,
Like,
especially if it's someone who like actually wants to talk about it like you, instead of someone who is like, oh no, this is my point now, and fuck yours.
yeah. But
But
and, like,
that's the problem, is that it's not constantly conversations about people who want to go back and forth. You
we've talked
usually
about
run into
Occam's
people who
razor.
are just like, it's my side or yours, and that's it.
No, I definitely used to be a lot more like that, but like we've talked about Occam's razor a few times, and on the free will discussion and on the God discussion, God versus atheism discussion,
Mhm.
there's a problem of, I think there's a problem anyway, of like the free will side and the God side both need to make they're the ones making the claim, they're the ones who have to put forward the position. Whereas the atheist side is basically like, yeah, I don't believe that. But I feel like most people think free will is the default when I don't. I think it's the claim. So when I say like I don't think that claim is necessarily true, I then suddenly have to prove that it's not true.
Well, I
And
feel like that's kind of the foundation of like Christianity, religion, the belief of God, though. Like
that is a
the freedom
key one.
to like make choices. The choice to sin, like that's kind of
Yeah.
I don't I
Like,
don't know how to explain it. Like I'm trying not to like take up a bunch of time and expanding on, and I guess that's kind of what I'm doing, is trying to expand on all of this. But how do I explain this? I'm going to try to say this as succinctly as possible.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Let me think about this for a second.
like it, to me, the union of religion and science, where people think those need to be like in conflict, like we were talking earlier, like how the church accepts most science, if not all of it. They just might have a different view on it than a secular atheist. I feel like the idea of God and free will has similarly been tied together in a way that I don't think it needs to be. Where like just because I don't think that what I'm doing tomorrow I have much control over, even internally, doesn't mean that I'm not like a unique individual that a God would have made and wanted to make for whatever his purpose is. But people seem to think that if they accept that the free will concept is erroneous, then suddenly they lose touch with the idea of God. And that's just, I feel like that's a mistake.
Yeah. I figured out the best way for me to say what my thoughts were about like free will as it correlates. If free will didn't exist, there would be no point in punishment. There would be no point in reward.
You know Christopher Hitchens, probably?
No.
Okay, he was a famous atheist in the atheist debate days, where he has a great quote about free will, where it's like, do you believe in free will? And he says, I have no choice. Where it's like, it's part of being human to believe you have free will, even if you don't actually have free will. And I feel like punishment and crime.
But is it though?
What?
Is it really part of the human condition, you think?
To believe that you have.
Hitchens is an idiot.
I just think it's a good quote. I don't know. Whatever you think of him otherwise.
I get conceptually, I understand completely what you mean. You're saying like as a human who's like, I guess, capable
like, even if
of like syntax, like if you're capable of syntax, you have to believe that you have that you can make choices.
Yeah, like
even if I get the purpose of it.
Even if I quote unquote know that I don't make choices and that I don't have free will, I can't live like that. I still live as though I think I do because I can't help but think I do.
I think that that's what makes humans like. I feel like that's a further. I feel like that's further supports my idea of like the existence of God because of how perceptive humans are. Like the complexity of the human brain, even from like language, like even if you're just looking at language, how amazing it is that I can like invoke thoughts. If I say,
I make mouth noises, you see pictures in brain.
if I say, yeah, you get it. Like, I guess that's my, wait, someone's here. Yeah. Yellow.
Howdy.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you guys?
Great, I think.
All right.
Golden.
Donnie told me to come in on the debate, so I would like to join.
Yeah, this is my homie Aaron.
Hey, Aaron, what is your I guess denomination? What is your denomination? Are you an atheist? Are you religious? Where do you land on the spectrum?
I'm a non-denominational Christian, is what I classify it as.
Okay. So right now, basically what we're talking about, I was just talking about the complexity of the human mind and how it's kind of it exemplifies like the existence of God and well, in part, in my opinion.
Sure.
What we're overall talking about is the existence of free will and whether it does or doesn't. And I think that I don't know if you've been watching or not, but Carson was kind of conceptualizing.
People think free will is the ability to have acted otherwise than they did.
Yeah.
And I think it is free will is the privilege of getting to do the thing you are always going to.
Choices. Like your
Have you seen the Butterfly Effect movie? I feel like it's a good thought experiment.
No, I haven't, but
Damn.
I haven't.
Okay.
He's basically saying you will always do what you will always do because you have done what you have done.
Yeah.
That's the premise of what he's getting at. It's a good argument. I think
we've been having a really good conversation so far.
I think that we're adding so many layers of complexity, and I guess that's part of the human condition is to add these layers of complexity. That's why I live in a house. That's why I have headphones. That's why I don't sleep outside. Is because humans are capable of this perception that animals aren't, and I guess that's what separates us from them. That's what I would suppose does.
Right. Yeah, you're getting deep down to the philosophical stuff. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I can get, I guess Donnie bringing me, I have personal experiences of why I believe, beyond, I guess, from a philosophical standpoint of like what you guys are talking to, but you're trying to, I like how you're having the debate, basically trying to debate the existence versus just what
nature of reality,
like the Big Bang from the beginning, or that way. You're just I get it.
The Big Bang came up before.
What's that?
What we gotta know, Aaron, is what is the meaning of life? Is there something to do with God? Is there fucking the Big Bang shit? What's going on, man?
Oh, that's way above my pay grade, Donnie.
No, just fucking lay it on us. Give us something to talk about.
I gotta sneak out of here on you guys. So if anybody has any,
I got
final requests.
I got it. I gotta wake up super early. I'm actually about to hop off right now. My bad, Aaron. I didn't know you were coming on or anything. And
No, that's actually my fault. I brought Aaron in here last minute.
yeah, no problem. Carson, thank you. This actually was a very stimulating conversation for me. I spent a lot of time talking to people who don't know what the hell they're talking about. So it's great to be able to sit down and talk to you about this.
Awesome. Hope to join you again on some other topic.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you for coming on. Aaron, it's nice meeting you.
Yeah, no, I'll have to give this a listen from the beginning once and see where you guys all started and where you went, and definitely. But yeah, I definitely had some stuff I could share on I guess
I tried getting Aaron in earlier but schedules weren't working and I was working late and everything, so it just didn't work out. But
no. I wanted to just talk about I guess more biblical stuff of why I believe. But you guys were definitely getting in deep on the philosophical stuff, so very cool. But
so if I had to, can you see Microsoft Paint right here?
Yeah, I can.
So I'm going to show you how this conversation was.
While we got a second here, I'm going to tell you, Aaron is the reason I got back into religion, man. He's one of the reasons, anyway.
Well, I'm glad, Donnie.
Okay, so this is the surface. This was the surface, all right? Yeah. And this is going to be a timeline. We started here, and we ended
down there.
So the very first thing we talked about was, and they're all going to see this, the very beginning of this talk was about, I'm sorry for everybody who just watched all of this. I'm about to repeat kind of. We started, the premise of the conversation was atheism versus religion, what has contributed more to society. We started off on very simplistic things on atheism versus theism, which is atheism responsible for the advancements in science? And now we're going down to what I feel are the inarguable supporters or I guess frameworks of many people's religious beliefs. That's where we ended. That's kind of where you came in, is because we're talking about that. Carson was actually super he started on the theistic side when there was an atheist person in here, and then he switched over just to keep the conversation going. Props to him. I'm going to end the chat. Don, do you want to stay in the lobby for a second?
Hell yeah. Thank
you, everybody, for tuning in. Go follow me on Kick. Otherwise, you guys have a good night, and thanks for tuning in.